In Iowa, Republican Congressman Steve King, who has served 9 terms, won't get to serve a 10th. He lost a crowded Republican primary last night to State Senator Randy Fenstra. Republican leaders had stripped King of all of his committee assignments last year after he questioned why the term white nationalism is offensive.
Yes, in these times of mass civil unrest and gross police brutality and racism, we finally got a little bit of justice. Steve King is done. Here are some examples of his crazy racism and bigotry.
This whole white people business, though, does get a little tired, Charlie. I mean, I'd ask you to go back through history and figure out where are these contributions that have been made by these other categories of people that you're talking about. Where did any other subgroup of people contribute more to civilization?
Than white people?
Than Western civilization itself, that's rooted in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and the United States of America, and every place where the footprint of Christianity settled the world. That's all of Western civilization.
Oh, and then he compared being stripped of his committee assignments to being nailed on the cross like Jesus. So the evangelical crowd, you're not hypocritical at all for supporting him.
When I had to step down to the floor of the House of Representatives and look up at those 400 and some accusers, you know, we've just passed through Easter and Christ's Passion, and I have a better insight into what he went through for us, partly because of that experience.
God, it's going to be awesome never to be able to talk about that sanctimonious psycho prick ever again. So it was a 5-way Republican primary, very crowded. Steve King has been in Congress for, I believe, 18 years. 9 terms. He lost to a guy named Randy Fenstra, who is a state senator in Iowa and was very much backed by the Republican establishment there, because Steve King was such a racist, think about this, that he passed the threshold of Republican embarrassment, and they were like, we got to get this guy out. So they backed Fenstra in this primary, and he won pretty handily. Now it's our job to defeat this guy in the general election. Just a little bit more details on what went down last night in Iowa. Mr. Fenstra, a political and social conservative in a deep red district, is the odds-on favorite to hold the seat against J.D. Scholten, who nearly defeated Mr. King 2 years ago and ran unopposed in the Democratic primary. Yeah, he almost beat him and the Democrats didn't run another candidate anyway. Mr. Fenstra, the preferred candidate of establishment Republicans seeking to oust Mr. King, easily outraised the incumbent, bringing in $925,800 to Mr. King's $331,000. He won endorsements from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the National Right to Life Committee. In an extraordinary rebuke of Mr. King by House colleagues, 5 Republican congressmen donated to Mr. Fenstra's campaign. Rather than attack Mr. King's years of demeaning comments about immigrants, he once compared Dreamers to drug mules with calves the size of cantaloupes, Mr. Fenstra portrayed the congressman as powerless to help Iowans. So he beat King by around 10 percentage points by basically running as a more pro-Trump Republican in the sense that he argued that Steve King couldn't get Trump's agenda through and blah, blah, blah. He was ineffective. That was his whole strategy there. But the district, despite being deep red, was winnable, I guess, with Steve King. I think maybe the Democrats might have a harder time. I'm just looking at it now. Because Trump won that district by 30 points in 2016, and Scholten only lost by 3 percentage points in 2018. So it was more of an anti-King vote, it seems like, than it was an anti-Republican vote. But still, with things as bad as they are, perhaps Democrats could take back that district, because it looks like, as things stand at this moment, there's going to be a lot of motivated anti-Trumpers. They may not vote Biden in. But in districts like this, when you can see Trump won by 30 points and the Democrat only lost by 3 points, there is a window there. And so, liberals, we got to back Scholten with all we've got.